Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
If you were already over, the Tory U-turn on social care costs has been all about the pensioner vote. The battle for the youth vote is no less fervent, especially with the deadline for voter registration ending today. And Labour, especially Jeremy Corbyn, have been getting some rather unexpected support from some of the country's leading grime stars, including Stormzy, who declared he liked Mr Corbyn's energy. But as Simeon Brown has been finding out, outside London, young grime fans still feel none of the parties have anything to offer them.
Hey, like this, look, someone brought with that certain perspective. Every word you be certain of many. Too many bars of a serving a pen with.
This is grime music at its most raw, but the genre that started on council estates has become mainstream. And now the scene's leading London figures are hoping to influence the election by getting out the youth vote. The queue into what looks like a converted warehouse is courtesy of Julie Adenuga. The Beats One DJ is one of the faces of Apple Music.
Is this thing on? Okay.
But today she's not spinning tracks. She's here to get under 24-year-olds and ethnic minorities registered to vote.
Across the 28 years that I've been on this earth, this year seems to be the one that I'm hearing the most about politics.
If there is a grime aristocracy, then Julie Adenuga is part of it. Her two brothers, Skepta and JME, are famous MCs, and like them, there's little doubt who she's backing.
I like Jeremy Corbyn.
You like Corbyn?
Yeah.
What do you like about Corbyn?
I like the way he rolls up his shirt sleeves. He reminds me of a school teacher.
Who likes school teachers, though?
I liked my school teachers a lot, actually. But yeah, he just seems like a chilled, like, uncle.
It's an unlikely alliance, but the leading names in London's grime scene have come out in support of Jeremy Corbyn, and they believe if young people vote, they can get him into power.
I feel like before, I felt uninformed, but of course it's all changing.
I'll be voting for Labour, predominantly because I'm going uni next year, so I think Labour supports young individuals and those who are going to university who aren't so privileged.
This is a music college, and support for Labour by musicians is nothing new. But Grime's Corbynism may be struggling outside of the Labour leader's home city. On Greater Manchester's Moss side, we are meeting the rising stars of the Northern Underground, sceptical of all the parties, because of cuts to youth centres like this, with the Lib Dems, Tories and Labour all trying to win the North by offering more power and in some cases more money. Which party will be getting their votes?
I'll keep it honest, bro. I don't deal with that.
You don't vote?
Nah, I'll be honest.
Well, it depends. Because if they're giving us more money, then who's dealing with what we do with that money?
Yeah, what's it gonna
then,
be?
with regards to that money, it's up to them to make that decision. Do they care?
All these people on the outside just don't understand it. So as much as they can talk about giving, I think it starts from us.
We were taken to see the DIY attitude to politics of the Northern grime scene in action that night. On a South Manchester estate at the live stream known as Block to Block. If there is a north-south divide opening up an engagement with the main parties, it might be explained by the perception over inequality.
Definitely financially, there's more money like circulating down south than there is up north.
There's also the divide over what it means to be a truly countercultural force.
Like, say Stormzy and like Skepta, I don't call that grime, I think that's commercial to me, but that's grime is the hard, like, you get me, like the hard, just straight grittiness, just raw bars, spray out, you get me.
Even if you're unlikely to find the same overt political affiliations as in London, the young artists here from Macclesfield, Manchester and Derby have not committed to silence, but they've only got a few hours left to register to vote if they want to ensure that music is not the only way they can be heard this election.
Well, joining me now are the Labour and Momentum activist Beth Foster-Ogg and the Conservative councillor Oliver Cooper. Beth, can I come to you first? This grime for Corbyn, a lot of the support takes place online, it takes place on social media. How are you actually going to translate that into votes?
I mean, we've seen lots of young people across the country who want to get out and door knock and support the Labour Party. And, you know, the grime movement supporting Jeremy Corbyn is really speaking to people, getting people really excited. And I think that if we can get young people to register to vote today, then we can really make a difference in this election, because the majority of young people do want to support the Labour Party.
Well, you say getting people very excited, but as I said, it's all happening in a sort of social media filter bubble. I mean, are you very excited about Grime for Corbyn? I take it you are.
Well, I think it's more important about the policies you have in the country rather than whether Stormzy or some other rapper is going to endorse a party. And frankly, the policies that are coming forward that do attract young people, increasingly young people, but also people across the age spectrum.
So what is the Conservative Party offering young people exactly?
Well, in terms of if you want to look at better investment in education, it's £4 billion a year extra going to education, £8 billion a year going to the NHS. And that's really important, because that's the sort of stuff that's going to care for our future. And making sure that the next generation doesn't have to pay off an increasing national debt is also equally important. Now, the only way you can do that is by voting Conservative, having a strong, stable leadership in the national interest to make sure we do have a good negotiated position.
Right, you've got your buzzwords in there. I think it's time to turn to Beth. Beth, the Labour Party has thrown a sweetener in for young people today, university tuition fees. The idea that if you start in September, you will not have to pay. The problem with that is it's targeting a middle-class vote, isn't it? It's only people who go to university who benefit from that.
I don't think that's true. I mean, I was brought up in Hackney, and lots of my friends chose not to go to university because they knew before they even, you know, started that they wouldn't be able to afford it, and they had families to support, and they would have to get a job. And I think this gives young people the opportunity to decide whether they want to go to university, and, you know, allows them to do that with a maintenance grant without having to worry about debt in the future. And if they, you know, have to get a job with a £10 minimum wage, which will support them, you know, throughout their lives. So I think it is a real opportunity for young people.
But are you getting through to those young people who aren't engaging with your online campaigns?
I think we are. I mean, the reason there's a Grime for Corbyn movement is because the grime artists are talking about the issues that Jeremy Corbyn is also talking about. They're talking about cuts to education. They're talking about the fact that we as young people won't be able to afford a home in the future. And Jeremy Corbyn is also talking about that issues. He's going to build 500,000 affordable homes, cutting tuition fees, making class sizes smaller, all these things that are going to allow young people to have an easier life in this country and get, you know, a more equal footing.
But if you go back to 2015, and I don't know if you were involved with the Labour Party then, there was a lot of excitement around Ed Miliband and the Milli fandom. That didn't translate into votes, did it?
But Jeremy Corbyn is someone who really is speaking to people. I mean, we saw him announce the Libertines in a concert with 20,000 people the other day. He's someone who people can trust and who, you know, is bringing policies forward that we can all see are going to make our lives better. And I think what's different to 2015 is people are recognising how after the last 7 years, people's lives have got tougher, and we are suffering under a Conservative government, and we have the ability to change that.
Oliver, Theresa May couldn't address a crowd like Jeremy Corbyn has.
Look, I'm a Libertines fan. I was disappointed that he chose to speak on a Libertines platform, but a lot of people, or Libertines fans, will be hearing what he says and they'll think, can't stand me now, because the things he's saying don't actually help young people. If you look at university tuition fees, the poorest young people are twice as likely to attend university in England, Wales and Northern Ireland, where we have tuition fees, than in Scotland, which is where Labour want to copy their policies from. So whilst it's great in terms of buzzwords, it's great in terms of trying to get people in short, snappy sentences, the fact is these policies haven't been thought through, and the best future comes from having thought through policies and strong, stable leadership. That might sound like a buzzword, but it's actually a consequence of having put thought into making sure that young people's lives are actually better off, rather than just coming up with policies that don't work.
But if you look at today's U-turn, it shows that the older generations still have the power to make a party change its policies. Young people just don't have that power, do they?
Well, I'm not sure that's necessarily the case at all. 400,000 people registered to vote in the 48 hours after the deadline was extended before the EU referendum. So it clearly is the case that young people do have a voice, and young people turned out in record numbers in that referendum. Now, what we need to do is make sure we have policies, not celebrity endorsements, but real policies that benefit young people. I don't think young people do see that from Labour.
We're going to have to leave it there. Oliver Cooper, Beth Ostrog, thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.
I've been getting away with it all